My name is Eleanor Bennett, and I'm 75 years old. I've lived a long life full of ordinary days and extraordinary lessons, quiet moments, and small triumphs. I've seen love bloom and fade, raised three children, Emma, Sophie, and Henry, and learned that the weight of a life isn't measured in accolades, but in the lives you touch without even realizing it. Most people don't notice those moments, but they are what truly matter. I was driving my granddaughter, Lila, home from school the other day, and she slid into the car, her backpack slumping at her side. She didn't smile, didn't sigh, just sat there, staring out the window like the world had gone a shade too gray. I asked her how her day was, and she gave me a one-word answer. Fine. I pressed, tried again, and got nothing. Then finally she turned to me and asked quietly, almost as if testing the words on herself first, Grandma, do you ever feel like everything you do just disappears? I almost laughed, but I didn't. I remembered being her age, feeling invisible in my own home, convinced that nothing I could do mattered at all. And here she was, 15 years old, already touching the edges of that fear. I looked at her and thought about how strange life is, how fleeting, how impossible it is to see its weight while you're in it. I wanted to tell her everything all at once, but I didn't. I decided instead to tell her a story, the story of my life, because maybe she needed to hear that even when you feel unseen, it does matter. I'm 75 now. I've lived through more than my fair share of heartbreak and small triumphs. I was married once, widowed twice, raised three children, Emma, Sophie, and Henry, and navigated decades of uncertainty, financially and emotionally. I've seen dreams crumble, friendships drift, and opportunities vanish as quickly as they appeared. And yet here I am, still driving, still noticing, still alive in the quiet corners of the world that most people never see. I've asked myself that same question over and over. Does anything I do actually matter? And it took 75 years to even begin to answer it. Society has a loud, relentless way of defining value. It tells you that if people notice you, if you are famous, if you earn applause, then you matter. That the louder your presence, the bigger your worth. I spent years chasing that noise, thinking if I could just be impressive enough, if I could just be seen, then my life would have meaning. I poured myself into work, into appearances, into proving myself to people who barely cared. I chased titles, accolades, the kind of admiration that feels good in the moment but never lingers. And I learned something important. The applause fades. The titles fade. What matters truly hides in quiet places. I remember a woman I worked with at the bank in my 30s, Martha. She didn't climb the corporate ladder, didn't speak at conferences, didn't post her life for approval. She worked her shifts, did her work honestly, and helped people quietly without recognition. She had a smile for the teller who was nervous on their first day, a listening ear for the widow in line, a note tucked into a file for someone struggling. Nobody noticed her. Nobody said her name in meetings. And then one day, years later, long after she'd retired, I heard stories of how she had made lives easier, how she had inspired patience, courage, and hope without ever knowing it. She had left a legacy she didn't see, and it changed how I understood meaning. Meaning doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with fanfare. Most of the time, the moments that truly matter feel invisible when they happen. The danger is thinking that because no one shouts your name, nothing matters at all. One of the most profound lessons I've learned is that the weight of a life is not in recognition but in presence. I remember a winter when I felt particularly low, weighed down by grief and loneliness. I was in that state where even breathing felt like a chore, where the world seemed to spin on without me, a friend, Clara, came by, not to fix anything, not to give advice, just to sit. For hours, we didn't speak. She brewed tea, she hummed quietly, she let me cry. I thought nothing of it at the time, but looking back now, I know that those hours prevented me from unraveling completely. She didn't do anything monumental. She just stayed. And sometimes staying is all that matters. It's strange how rarely you know when you matter. People move on. Kindness is often unacknowledged. Most of the world is unaware of the tiny ways we impact it. I've seen my own small habits: cooking extra for a neighbor, writing notes to my children, keeping a journal of thoughts, checking in on friends, reveal their weight years later. Someone would tell me, decades after the fact, that a note I sent in high school helped them through a heartbreak. That a conversation I had on a rainy afternoon reminded them to keep going. I had dismissed those moments at the time as trivial, but meaning accumulates quietly, invisibly, like snow gathering on a silent morning. I used to believe I had to be remarkable, extraordinary, larger than life to matter. I chased that lie for too many years until I realized how exhausting it was. Ordinary is enough. The world survives because of unnoticed people, because of those who show up quietly, consistently, without seeking applause, because of the ones who notice the small hurts, the ones who hold space, the ones who love without announcement. That is the backbone of life. If you ask me now what makes a life meaningful, I will tell you it isn't the grand gestures, the awards, or the admiration of strangers. It's noticing. It's making space for others' pain. It's gentle, unremarkable acts done over and over again. Did you notice the person next to you today? Did you make room for them when they faltered? Were you patient when it would have been easier to snap? These are the moments that echo, not the moments you broadcast. I think about the question Lila asked. Do you ever feel like everything you do just disappears? And I know now what she is really asking. Am I seen? Will I be remembered? Does my life mean anything to anyone? The answer is yes, in ways she cannot yet see. You matter not because your life is visible on a stage, but because it touches the lives of others in ways that are subtle, persistent, and often invisible. I think of my niece, Clara, whom I taught to cook when she was 10. I didn't do anything extraordinary, simply showed her how to whisk, how to taste, how to be patient with a sauce. I didn't realize it then, but she carried those lessons into adulthood. She remembers now as a mother herself the steadiness of my presence, the quiet insistence that some things are worth taking time with. Small, repeated acts of presence shape identity, more than any lecture or grand gesture ever could. Achievements fade, titles disappear, recognition dwindles. What lasts is the emotional memory, the way you made people feel during ordinary moments, a brief encounter with a stranger, a comforting word to a friend, a quiet act of love for someone who never thanked you. These are the threads of a life, unseen but unbreakable. I remember the woman at the grocery store, Mrs. Thompson, who dropped her cart and muttered about a hard day. I smiled, told her something small, and left. I never knew her again, and she never knew the weight of that gesture, but it mattered. So I tell Lila gently, it does matter, but not in the way the world will try to convince her. Mattering lives in patience, in showing up when it's inconvenient, in kindness when it goes unnoticed, in the quiet moments where you are brave enough to be present, steady, and true. Loud success is temporary. Quiet love is enduring. At 75, I hope my life has meant something, not because I built an empire or received accolades, but because I was present, because I loved well, because I left people better than I found them. That is enough. That is all that matters. And I tell her softly that it is enough for her too. Notice one small moment today. Hold it. Cherish it. Your life matters in ways that might never be announced, but which will ripple farther than you imagine. And maybe one day someone will ask you the same question and you will smile because you'll know the answer.